Hello and welcome to part 3 of the Ghost Island tutorial. So in this tutorial we're going to be focusing on the baddie actor, okay, allowing us to learn a bit about timers and how we can use the update event to have a timer of some sort. So what I'm really talking about is in our demo game we do have two types of baddies. Hopefully I can wrap this up in about 30 minutes so we can do both the baddies in about 30 to 40 minutes. So you can see one baddie goes up and down, and I have another baddie that goes right and left. Okay, if we collide with them, we basically restart the scene. Okay, and they're all on their own timers, and the timers are randomized, so sometimes their range would be different to a previous movement round. So how are we going to do that? We're going to learn all of that in this tutorial. So let's begin. So we're going to add a quick object. So in our hierarchy, on the top left, that is, well, not top left, towards the left of the screen. Let me see if I'm live or not. Yep. All right, cool. It's all good. So we're going to right click and create a game object. So I'm just going to create an empty object. Reset it to 0, 0, 0. Okay, so I know where it is. I'm going to go back to scene view. So that's my empty object, that is. I'm going to rename, so right click on it and rename it to horizontal baddie. Okay, we're going to have a lot of instances of the baddie actor, so we're going to make this a prefab. What is a prefab? I'm going to cover that when we actually end up making them prefabs. Okay, it's not a really complex concept. It's a really helpful concept actually. So we have this horizontal baddie. We're going to go back to project. Okay, so here's the project bottom left, and I'm going to go to my sprites folder. I think I should rename it to sprites, not sprite. I don't know why I named it sprite. Okay, so sprites. Right, I'm going to create another sprite here. So in my sprites folder, I'm going to right click, create, and I'm going to create a sprite. Maybe my baddies would be, I don't know, something distinct from circle. So maybe square. They're going to be different really though when we do get to custom assets. So when we do import assets from the asset store, we would be like this asset store, we would be using custom assets. For now, it's just, it'll do for now. Okay, so we have the square sprite. So I can click on the horizontal baddie and then add a component. So add component, I'm gonna add the sprite renderer. Okay, so I'm pacing these tutorials in a way where you do have a bit of repetition, so you do get a hang of the basics that you need to do and to have a solid foundation. The sprite renderer, and again, it doesn't have any sprite, so it says sprite. The sprite column is not column, rows empty at the moment, so it's none. We're just gonna drag over square and place it there. Okay, so that's my baddie. I'm going to change the color. As this is my baddie, I'm just going to change it to red for the moment. Okay, and that would be it. I would actually like to scale it down a bit. So here's the scaling part. I'm just going to make it half for X and half for Y. Okay, so it's a smaller version. I'm going to click on the horizontal baddie again, and then the move tool. I'll just move it up here, maybe down there. Okay, just have a nice little space. Now, before I get into scripting, I just want to quickly mention anyone who hasn't watched the first two tutorials. This is not for a project. This is not for a uni projects or uni assignments. If you have something, you're in a rush or any sort, this video is not for you. It's a really chilled, relaxed video where I just go over the simple concepts, introduce them, and break down every single line of code. So whoever's watching, it has to be who don't know much about coding or is just starting out with Unity. It's primarily aimed towards children, young teens, so they can get into coding. Yeah, so if you are in a rush, you have projects to do, assignments to do, this tutorial would not be a good idea. So yeah. Right, with that said, I'm going to click on the scripts folder now. So it's under assets, I'm going to click on the scripts folder, and we're going to create a script. Okay, so create C# script. Let's call this horizontal horizontal movement. Okay, no space. I don't like to have spaces in my script names. Horizontal movement. Okay, and this is gonna go onto this horizontal body. So you can just drag it over so you can just drag it like this. So here, or you can just drag it here like that. But as you guys are starting out, I'm just gonna do it the way it will help you understand what we're doing. So we're just gonna add a component. We're just gonna add the horizontal script that we just added. Okay, so horizontal movement. Let's add that in. All right. Right now, obviously, without any sort of script, any sort of code in it, nothing's gonna happen. Okay, and none of our characters got colliders on them. And I'm not going to talk about colliders now. Really trying to break everything down into videos. So like this tutorial, we're just going to talk about movement for the horizontal body. Yeah, colliders would be something for in the future. Anyway, so I'm going to double click on the horizontal script. So the default text editor will open up. For me, that is Visual Studio. It really doesn't matter which editor you're using. So yeah, I haven't really talked about this using thingies, and I'm not going to do that in the entire tutorial, entire series. It's really not necessary, especially if you are just starting out with a Unity scripting. Okay, right, I'm going to get rid of these comments. Hopefully you guys know what comments are from the previous video. Okay, right, so I'm going to get rid of the comments. Now the idea here, if I go back to my Unity editor, the idea here for the horizontal body is to do basically this. Okay, so if I move this object, so horizontal is the x-axis. Okay, so going left and right, and that's what it's going to do. So it's going to start off by going to the right, and after a while it's going to change its direction. So you can see how the x position decreases as you go left, and increases as it goes right. Okay, so that is the primary idea. Okay, what I'm going to do first though, I'm just going to set up a nice little timer. Okay, so for that we need to create a variable. Okay, so we're going to create a variable float. Hopefully you guys remember from our movement script, float is anything that can store a decimal point number. Okay, so anything, it can hold a whole number, it can hold a decimal point number. So float, I'm going to call it timer equals to 0.0f. You can just do 0.f as well if you want to. I don't want any other class or any, like, no designer needs to have access to this. I'm just going to make it a private. So private float timer. Remember, private allows you to have complete, like you make this completely hidden. The designers can't access it from the Unity editor, or no other class, no other script can access it. Okay, if you guys remember from the movement script, serialize field would just bring this up in the Unity editor. If I just go to my player, movement script, you can see how the speed is there. Okay, so I don't really need to do the timer as a serialized field or public. That is because the whole point of this timer is to increase over time. Okay, over time, and yeah, increase over time, really. So there's literally no point of it giving anyone access to this. And if you guys remember, the update function runs the update event runs every frame. I think I've covered that quite extensively in the first two tutorials, so I'm not going to go over that. So yeah, but in short, it just runs every frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase this value of timer. Okay, so I'm going to come here in timer, and this gives us an opportunity to learn about operators. Okay, operators are, we have actually used an operator in the movement script, that is this, the equal sign. That is an operator as well. It allows you to assign values. Today what we're going to do is we're going to learn about what do you call the sorry about that. I think I'm just not getting the thingies right. Oh, there you go. So today what we're gonna do is we will learn about operators that helps us increase values. Okay, so increment operators. Okay, they look like this, plus equal. I'm gonna break it down here in the code as well. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to increase the value of timer by a certain amount, and the amount would be the time between each frame, and the time between each frame we can get access to that using this particular code block, Time.deltaTime. Okay, so even before I do that, actually, let me just quickly show you something. So don't do this code. I'm just gonna delete the timer for now. I'm gonna debug and log Time.deltaTime, just to show you guys how this would work. So if I go back to my Unity editor and click on my console, just maybe bring it up a bit there. Okay, and if I launch my game, remember horizontal body, the red square there, does have the script added, so the script would start running. So if I launch, you'd see how we have the values of delta time. Okay, so if I pause for a moment, you'll see well, the size was quite fixed, okay, and then it kind of got varied over time. So delta time is basically, for me at the moment, is like it's varying from 0.02 to I think 0. Yeah, I think it's pretty much 0.02 to 0.0. No, it never reaches 3, so it's quite fast at the moment. So yeah, so that's what we're gonna add to our original time. Okay, so what I mean by that is, so we have 0 at the start, and this is what I want to do. I want to do 0 plus, okay, whatever the delta time value may be. So it's 0.02 at the moment. The next time my timer would have an updated value, so it'd be 0 plus 0.02 would be just 0.02. Then again, the next time 0.02 or whatever value the delta time has. Why we're going to do that? This just gives us an option to create a bit of a timer. Okay, so we have control over when we want this baddie to change direction. Okay, so the whole point of us creating a timer is to have a controlled timer that we can use to change the direction. So right, so we're going to use timer, and to add values we can use this plus equal operator. Okay, plus equal just adds to whatever you have on the left. Okay, so I'm going to use Time.deltaTime. Hopefully you guys are getting Time.deltaTime concept. I know when I used it, it was quite tricky, and that's why I used that's why I spent quite some time on this concept, Time.deltaTime, in the previous video, and also spending some time here. So now if I debug and log, and again debug and log just to show you guys what it's doing. So now if I print timer, okay, I can just maybe add a text saying that game has been running for so if I just do that, again this is not going to end up in the a game, but I just wanted to show you guys. Wait, have I saved? Yep. Okay, so if I launch, you'd see how the console part, game has been running for 2 seconds, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it gives us a simulated sort of time, which is close to actual time, right? Really close to actual time. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna so we now know that we have this timer that increments. Okay, so we have this timer which starts at 0 and it increments over time, so 7, 8, 10, whatever. Now what we do need next is another variable, which I want for that to be a serialized value. That is, that variable would keep track of when my baddie would turn, and that is something that the designer should have access to. You don't want your designer to go digging into your code just to change a value so it looks nicer. So what you do is you're gonna have this, sorry, my bad, you're gonna have the serialized field, okay, this text, so you're gonna have that, so square brackets, then serialize field. And underneath that you just create a private. I don't necessarily think any other script needs to have access to how long a baddie can turn, how long a baddie would go in certain directions. So I'm just going to have this as private. private float change. What should I call it? Change timer. Okay, with this maybe the very first time we are creating a multiple word variable. Okay, so remember C# uses Pascal casing. If you guys remember from the previous video, Pascal casing states like these codes would start with capital letters. That's for methods. Okay, that's for methods like these. For variables, however, you are following something like camel casing, where you start off with a capital letter, a small letter word, and every word after that would start with a capital letter. Okay, so change direction timer. Change direction time. This is not a really timer. It is a time at which like timestamp where at which point the player would change direction. Now I'm gonna go with maybe 5. Okay, 5 seconds. Okay, so every 5 seconds my baddie is gonna change direction. If I save, obviously this would appear if I go back to my Unity, and this would reflect. You can see the change timer. Now, one other thing that I want for you guys to know, that is, you can make this as a range. So think about if you're coding and you know that a higher value may use up, in certain cases that is, a higher value may use up a lot of memory. So you allow your designer to have access to the code. However, you can do this as well. So where you have a range of, let's say, a minimum and maximum value. So maybe you can say, okay, the baddies can turn at minimum of 3 seconds and maximum of 10 seconds. Okay, they can't do anything outside this range. So adding this code does is, if I go back now, you'd see how change timer has turned into a slider now, where the minimum value is 3 and the highest value is 10. Okay, it's something that you may or may not want. I personally don't think this is a really big deal here. Okay, so I'm not gonna do that, but I just wanted you guys to know, so we can get rid of that. Okay, change timer. I'm just gonna have a comment. Decides at which time frame the baddie turns. Okay, or changes direction. Okay, so this is what this variable does. Right, now what we're going to do is we're going to come back to the update method. I'm going to get rid of this debug.log obviously, and bring in the conditionals, because I need to check if my timer has reached this value, that is 5. Okay, so if timer is greater or equal to change direction time, that is this variable, you can go down to the next line and have the curly braces and hit enter to create the scope of the ifs. Okay, so this is the scope of if. So if the timer reaches this point, that is 5 seconds for me, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reset my timer. So I'm going to change it back to 0. So it's just 0f. Okay, so the timer reaches back to 0. And here we'll have the code which will enable us to change the direction of the baddie. Okay, so change the direction of the baddie. One other thing though, if I go, well, I'm not going to go back to my game. It's going to take up time. In my game, what I did was the baddies turned randomly. Okay, so they have a sort of random range in terms of when they're turning. So you can achieve that quite easily as well. So baddies may start off with 5 or any number really, and then every time they change direction, you can just update this value. So change direction time, you can no longer need to set it to 5. It can be of a separate different value, which is random. Okay, that makes the game a bit more fun. So you can use this class called random. Okay, so random dot range. Okay, random range. So this function allows you to generate a random number between a minimum number and a maximum number. Okay, so let's get that in. Round brackets. Okay, So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna maybe go with minimum as 3 float, comma, space. Again, I like to put spaces, you don't have to, and maximum maybe 8f. Okay, now this right here is not a good practice. You should not have these magic numbers. Okay, and also you should give the designer the option to maybe fiddle around with these values as well. So the easiest way to do that would be to create 2 more serialized fields. So I'm just going to copy this. So 1, 2, okay, and create 2 private float variables. So private float and private float. Oops. Okay, one of them would be min, which can be any number, maybe 3f, and the other one would be max, would be 10f. This really gives more control to the designer, okay, and also gives a better reading. So if you just replace the 3f with min and 8f with max, it makes your code a lot more readable, which is a really good practice, and you should always avoid numbers like that. They're called magic numbers. Yeah, like you don't know what they're really doing. It's always good to have variables representing numbers like that. So what this will do is this will randomly change the direction time. So the start, it may be 5. The next time it may not be 5. Okay, it can be any number from 3 to 10 seconds. Now you can also do this at the very start. So like you literally don't know when the baddie is going to change the direction, okay? Because you do want everybody to change the direction at different intervals when the game starts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this line of code, and I'm going to put in on the start event. Okay, so every baddie when they start would have a random range in terms of their turning. Okay, so no one would, like you don't really see this behavior, like you don't in a game. You don't see every single baddie changing direction at the same time. Okay, it should be randomized. So you can achieve that by just copying the code over here. All right, so this basically has all of our setup done. So we have a timer, we have our direction time that changes over the changes between some range. Okay, just to give you guys a good understanding of what we have done so far, I'm just going to quickly debug and log again. Okay, so at the start, obviously change direction time. This would be different. So if I Control C and go back to my start. Okay, so if I go back to my Unity now and launch, you'd see how at the start the change timer has a value of 3. I don't know if you guys can see that, and then it has 9, and then so it's going to wait for 9 seconds, and then maybe after that it's 7. An easier way to see that would be if you focus on my screen. You have you can see where my mouse is. It's on the top right. I'm just going to get out of the play mode. So top right, you have these 3 dots. If you click on it and select the debug mode, the reason I didn't introduce this in the very first the first 2 tutorials is because it opens up a lot of layers that we don't need to see and may look quite intimidating to beginners. So this is the debug mode. So normally it's set to normal. Okay, so 3 dots and like debug, 3 dots and normal. So normally you'd like for this to be on normal mode, but sometimes it helps if you just have the debug mode on. You want to get rid of not to get rid of, just minimize transform, sprite renderer. What you only want to see is this horizontal movement. Now this shows us all the variables. Okay, so you have this change direction timer, which is serialized, so that's all good. However, the timer is private, so we don't really see that. But now with this, in this debug mode, you can see how the timer goes up, and the change direction obviously would change the next time as well. So you can see how that's changing, and we basically have all of our setup done. The only thing we have to do is just make the baddie move. Okay, and we already know that from the movement script. We know how to move our baddies left or right, so we're just going to use that idea here as well. Okay, so on the update event, I'm just going to do transform transform.Translate. Okay, so we're going to go vector3 dot, let's start it by moving to the right. And if you guys remember, we always have to take time.deltaTime into consideration. So we're taking the frame into consideration so it doesn't look glitchy or laggy and doesn't just move off the screen really fast. So this is just a directional movement. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply it by a certain speed. Okay, and the speed would be changing, thereby allowing us to change the direction. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have another variable. Let's just first write it down. I have a speed, which obviously I don't have, so at the moment the editor would be really angry with me. So I'm going to go ahead and create a speed variable. Okay, so I want this to be private, but I do want this to be a serialized field. So I'm going to copy all of that. So serialized field, private float speed. So you have access to it, and we will be setting it to a certain value. Okay, this here would make sense to have a range. Okay, so you may not want your designers to set some crazy big numbers, so you can have a control. You can control designers' actions, limit them rather. Okay, so maybe I'm gonna go with 3 to 10. Okay, so it has a slider, and obviously I'm gonna go with maybe 5. Okay, at the start. So right now my baddie would just be moving to the right, which is all good. I just want you guys to see that and maybe have a think about how we can change the direction, because we literally have everything done for us until now. Really, we have the timer set up, we have everything, so the baddie would just be moving to the right. The timer is gonna work as well. Okay, and we also have the speed. So yeah, if you have a think about it, how you can maybe change the value of the speed variable so it changes direction. Okay, so yeah, try and have a think about how you can change the direction. So at the moment it's gonna, I think you should turn on the debug mode because I don't want to see all of that. Okay, so so it's gonna move right. So if I just launch the game, obviously it's going to increase on its x-axis. Okay. Now what I really want to do, but am I live? Yep, great. What I really want to do is I just want to multiply the speed with -1, allowing us to turn this into a negative value. Okay. So once the timer hits the change direction time, I can come here. It's going to get rid of the debug.log. Don't really need to see that. Okay, I'm gonna change the speed. I'm gonna multiply it. So we have learned about the increment operator. It's a similar operator. So increment operator adds to whatever you have, like here we have done with the timer. We also have this multiplication equal sign, okay, which just multiplies whatever you have on the left with whatever you have on the right. So example can be, so this is what I'm going to try and do. So speed multiply equals to -1. That's what I'm going to do right now. So what this will do is the start we have speed as 5. If you multiply equal to -1, it would, when we're doing the second iteration, it would be -5. Okay, so the updated value would be -5. Okay, the second iteration it would have -5 again multiplied by -1. Okay, and it will update the -5. So if you multiply -5 by -1, you get a +5. Okay, so you're just changing the direction. So you're making it go positive to negative. Okay, so that's what multiplication equal kind of does. So if I come back to the update function, we're going to do speed multiply equals -1. I do semicolon. So every time the timer hits this change direction time, the speed would get multiplied. Oh, sorry, the speed would change to a negative number, allowing this right to flip to a left, really, and we're going to go to the left direction. Because if you remember, the right is this vector3.right is nothing but, so this vector3.right. Oh my god, if I didn't get that. Vector3.right is nothing but this 1 0 0. Okay, so 1 is x and y, x, 0 is y, and the third 0 is z. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to multiply this speed, which is when you turn it to negative, this 1 multiplied with -5, it obviously turns to a -5. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to get rid of that, and we're going to put our code to test. So if I save our work, if I go back to my Unity, you know what, I have a feeling this speed should not be that high. Okay, maybe we're going to go to something less. Okay, so if I launch, it goes off, which I can't see. Well, it's 7 points, so I'm pretty sure I can't see the character coming back. Well, it changed to -3, so it's going to come back, and it has changed again. So well, we can't really see the value. Can't really see the item coming back right away. Maybe you need to fiddle around with the values a bit. Yeah, well, let's see if I just change the values, maybe the min to 2, max to 4. Let's see if I can just keep my baddie on the screen. Okay, you can also drag it to the left. So let's see. So it goes right, change direction, it does. However, I'm still not happy with the amount. You guys can fiddle around with it. Okay, what I want to move on to though is like duplicating an actor. So I have a horizontal baddie, applier. So I'm just gonna do control. So if you click on the horizontal baddie once, that is, and right click, you can use duplicate, or you can go Control D, creates another actor. Okay, they're located the same spot, you just need to move them. Okay, and this is why I used the random code on their start method, because you'd see how both the baddies don't move at the same interval, or the same speed, like change direction at the same interval. Okay, so I really need to make it bigger. So you can see how they are different in terms of their movement and the changing direction. You can also do the random thingy for the speed if you like to. Let me have a look how long I've been doing this video. 32 minutes. We're gonna quickly do the vertical baddie. Okay, it's the same idea. Again, I don't want to do another video for this. Same idea. Hopefully you guys can see how similar this is going to be. So I'm going to create a script. So on my scripts, in my scripts folder, I'm going to right click, create C# script, and call this vertical movement. Okay, and I'm going to double click on it, which didn't open my vertical script for some reason. So I'm gonna do that again. All right, there you go. So I'm just gonna copy my horizontal. There was one thing that I did notice. That was okay. By the way, hopefully, I really do hope you guys can see how making these fields serialized, how giving the designer access to them helped us kind of see the change. Okay, imagine you guys not having access to this in Unity and having to go back to your editor to change the values manually. You guys know the code, so it would be easier, but however, if you're a designer, coming from a designer background, and you need to change them, you just have to go back and read the code all over and just do that, which can be really painful, especially in a big project. So it's important to give the designer what you think they may need access to. Okay, I'm gonna copy the horizontal. Let's see how it looks in the screen. Okay, that should be good. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this from the opening, from after the opening scope of opening curly bracket all the way to the end of update. Okay, don't copy the last curly brace. Okay, don't do that. Just copy it. Come back to vertical movement and get rid of everything here, and then paste the code in. The reason I did that because the setup is kind of the same. In a different sort of game, or if I was doing this for my sort of project, I'd have done the movement on the same script, so horizontal and vertical would have been randomized. So somebody with the same script can be moving vertically, and somebody's can be moving horizontally. But as this is a really beginner's lesson, I didn't want to confuse you guys, so this is going to be a separate script. The only difference we need to, the only difference we have in terms of code would be, I think it would be here in the transform.Translate. Oh my god, it's raining outside. I love rain. Anyway, so this transform.Translate section, okay? So here, we're going to change the direction from the horizontal to vertical, okay? So vector 3.right would be changed to vector 3.up, okay? I'm pretty sure that is about it. I actually want to do one other thing. I want to actually randomize my speed. I mean, I will let you guys do that, okay? Don't want to take up time for that. But yeah, you can easily do that. It's the same concept. Okay, you can just do speed, random, range, and declare two variables and do that. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my Unity editor, maybe create another empty object. So right click on the hierarchy, create empty. This one's going to be my vertical. Where is the rename option? There you go. So this is going to be my vertical body. Okay, where is that? I can't really see it. Oh, there it is. So I'm going to set to 0, 0, and 0. Okay, let's give this a sprite as well. So we're going to add a sprite render component, adding component sprite render. By the way, you can just literally do it with sprite as well. The reason I'm breaking everything down like this is because I wanted you guys to see how it's done under the hood, sort of. Okay, so yeah, so you guys have really your foundation, your basics, your understanding of the of how the work is really solid. Okay, so just adding a sprite renderer. I'm just gonna drag over the square sprite onto the sprite section. Okay, this is my another baddie. Let's give it a purple. I don't know why a baddie would have a purple color, but yeah, that's what it is. Okay, let's make this vertical baddie go 0.3, 0.3. Okay, so kind of like smaller block. You know what, even smaller, why not? 2. Right. It's gonna go up, and so I just made the Y scale bigger than the X scale. Okay, this is where I'm doing it, by the way. If I'm doing it fast, apologize for that. Anyway, so that's gonna be my vertical baddie. Well, it's gonna be a vertical baddie, but the thing is, we haven't added the script. So we do have the script, so you can just go to the scripts folder, and you can drag the vertical script onto the baddie itself here in the scene view, or on the add component button, or I can just click on add component and type up vertical movement. Okay, and that just adds the vertical movement script. Change direction timer, I probably change the min and max again, so maybe max to 5, min to 2, speed to maybe that, okay, 3.5. Okay, let's give it a quick test. If I save, well, have I saved my script? I have. Okay, great. So if I launch now, you'd see how the vertical baddie goes up. Hopefully it comes down and we can see it. I mean, it's coming down. I can see the Y position decrease. Oh, there you go. Yeah, so sometimes you may not see the character because we haven't really done the camera yet. So it's hard for you to see certain characters. So I don't really recommend looking at the view, rather look at the position in terms of the particular axis. So you can see how the Y is definitely decreasing and it's definitely increasing afterwards. So even if you don't see them, you can see the value here changing and you'd know, okay, my code is working. It's just there off the view. Okay. So we have the basic setup of our basic mechanic setup. So the baddies can move, the player can move. Where has my baddie disappeared? Oh, it's way at the bottom. Look at that. Why is that? My speed, have we randomized the speed that much? Anyways, it has gone off view, and that's kind of predicted because they are running on random scripts, which would add random behaviors, adding more twists to your game. So when we do add the script add the camera to the player, you can see I can move around and like you'd see those working as well. Anyway, so we have the basic setup done. And the next tutorial we're gonna work on the collectibles. Okay, so we can collect items, so we can get points, and also that would really lead us into collisions with the baddies as well. Okay, with the baddies, collectibles, so we can get points as well, right? And then maybe after that we're gonna focus on the UI element, so we can paint something on our screen. Alright, thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the tutorial, and I'll see you guys in the next part. Bye bye.